Hey guys, this is Mission Quest 2 in DFFOO Global. For this mission quest, you have to bring a party from the Final Fantasy 9 series. And at first I was considering an often approach with Beatrix and Quina. But then I realized that the bosses don't really have a lot of HP anyway. And going often is a little bit tricky because they can counter Incloud later on in the fight, which can inflict the blind debuff on your party. You can potentially get around that with something like a Lana call, but due to the fact that they don't have a lot of HP anyway, I decided to go another route here where I just sort of blitz them down as quickly as possible and making use of the Raijin debuff to prevent the blind debuff from the bosses. I do have the U2 crystal passives on everyone, but you may be able to get by without. I think it wouldn't make too much of a difference other than maybe a higher turn count. For reference, this entire fight will only be a 1 turn run overall. To increase the chances of getting the best starting turn order, which is Freya, Garnet and Quina, I remove buff speed up passive from Quina. At the start you want to have Freya use LD and then use both the Raijin calls and then AA and then jump into the air. All the additional actions that I take is really just to help charge the force gauge bar a little bit, because this party lacks a dedicated force gauge charger. There isn't one in FF9 series unfortunately, so to compensate for that I'm bringing an Ares friend support to get the Seal Evil debuff as well as to help charge the force gauge. We will also be making use of summon mode to help get additional turns to quickly get to 100% force time so that you can quickly mow the bosses down. Because of that, I gave Garnet the Seed Rains call. Seed Rains allows you to do launches. That combined with the Freya spears every single turn, as you can see, leads to a full summon meter as early as Garnet's first turn. I then proceed to use one additional ability with Garnet, and then I actually swap her out for the Ares friend support right here. One thing that I should mention also at the start is that you want to try to damage the bosses actually a little bit unevenly. Try to focus more on one target and get the HP difference by about 2 to 3% would be ideal. This is important because later in Quina BT Mode we will be damaging the bosses a little bit unevenly because Cook is predominantly a single target attack, and you do need to even out the HP damage later on in the fight. When Ares support comes in, the idea here is to use 3 healing winds and then on the 4th turn use Prayer of etc., leaving 1 turn behind for Ares friend. Quina has a free turn here because of the U2 Black Crystal passive, so here I use EX and then I use additional ability and then I pop summon. If you don't have the Black U2 Crystal passive, what you want to do is probably use AA and then just go pop summon and use EX to end the turn. But because I get 1 additional turn, I get to fit in 1 LD as well. Here I proceed to pop Brother Summon so that I can pass Quina's turn without increasing the turn count. I'm also about 60% through in my force gauge, so you should be able to charge the remainder of the force gauge inside summon mode. On Ares' final turn, have her use LD to get her Seal Evil debuff up. I had Quina use it here mainly to build the number of stacks in the frog overhead. At this point, Garnet will come back in, so simply have her use LD. Freya lands here and there's 2 turns in summon mode. So to try to chip down as much damage as possible, and trust me when I say this, every percent of health actually matters a lot. The lower you can get the bosses here before Quina's turn, the better. So what I do here is double LD, so that I use up the whole summon mode without increasing the turn count. And once you exit summon mode, Freya can jump into the air again and still keep the turn count at 0. Freya's last action there should nicely fill up the rest of the force gauge, allowing Quina to start its turn with 100% force. This is ideal because I will be going into FR and BT mode here. To give you the room to do all these consecutive actions, this is where the Lunafreya LD call comes in. And importantly also, Quina has to be in party slot number 3, because you actually want to buff Garnet with quick prayer as well. It will come into handy later on. I use the Lunafreya base call here just to help build the force gauge a little bit, because you don't actually need all 10 turns. Then go BT plus and BT mode. Okay, with Quina's BT mode, you want to use cook 5 times, and the order is actually very important. I hope that you've damaged the bosses a little bit unevenly. The ideal situation is that one boss should be 2 to 3% health lower than the other boss. What you want to do first is use 3 cooks, I repeat 3 cooks on the boss with the lower amount of health. That's right, the lower amount of health. After the 3 cooks, switch target and use cook 2 times more on the boss with a higher amount of health this time. By doing so, hopefully you should end up with both bosses with very similar HP. It's okay if they are like maybe 2 to 3% off, but ideally no more than that. In my run here, both bosses end up with a 2% life difference, which isn't optimal but is close enough. Use FR on the final turn in BT mode and then use Quina's PT finisher to end BT mode. We want to damage the bosses as evenly as possible because part of the mechanic of this fight requires you to kill both bosses on the same attack. If one boss survives at any time, the boss will instantly resurrect the other boss to full 100% health. Now coming out of BT mode, you want either both bosses to be below 15% health, ideally as close to 10% health, so that Garnet can finish them off in 1 FR, or For example, if you like the ultimate weapons, you want both bosses to be at around 20% health instead, in which case you can just use 2 FRs with Garnet back to back to finish them off on the same attack. Which of the two directions you go really depends on how many ultimate weapons that you have. Quina and Garnet in my setup has 505 ultimate weapons, so 1 echo was enough. Anyway, that's it for this fight. As always, I hope the video has been helpful, and if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment and subscribe. Till then, I will see you guys in the next mission quest. Bye!